So thanks for doing this. So everyone who's watching, guys, so this is Matthew Thorp, who is a Jim's Mowing franchisee. What's your territory, Matt, for everyone watching?
Hampton Bayside.
Hampton Bayside. How long have you been in business?
Just ticked over 2 years.
Just over 2 years, and you are a sole trader still, or do you have employees?
No, sole trader, yeah, so by myself.
By yourself at the moment. Okay, cool. Now, just to start with, how in general are you going overall with obviously the announcement and obviously homebound now? So how have you been?
Yeah, the announcement came as quite a shock because I just had, maybe naively had just assumed that we were going to be okay to work. Working by yourself, not seeing any of your customers, or many anyway, I would have thought it's a pretty safe environment to work in. And it was when I was sitting at home, I'd actually taken the Monday off to homeschool. So I've got 2 kids both in school. I took that Monday off to homeschool, and when the 2 o'clock press conference came on, I was watching that only for him to flippantly say, well, no one will be coming around to clean your house or mow your lawn. And that's when my phone started running hot.
Yeah, we were the same. We saw the DHS guidelines and we were so cool. This is sole trader exemption, right? Where you had no contact, and we thought, oh, sweet, most of the people will be fine. And then, yeah, you're right. He said the same thing, and then as exactly what happened for you, that's what happened for us. Was the phones went hot and the emails.
Yeah, well. and I don't get it, because the sole trader exemption, I think, trumps anything that's in that document because it's at the top of the document. Mm. So I would think the first thing you're reading is, fine, sole trader, don't have to worry about it. Yeah. So I don't know what's changed, what flipped it on its head to say, well, you can't go out. And look, I understand they're trying to minimise movement within the streets, the roads. I get all that. And if you see 50, 60 Jim's mowing trailers driving around, people will start to think, well, if it's okay for them, it's okay for me. But I think he needed to articulate it a lot better. If there is an opportunity for people to be able to do their job without coming into contact with the general public, they can continue to do so. And I think that is absolutely maybe, 70 to 80 to maybe even 90% of the Jim's group.
Yeah, and I think the frustrating thing now is we're getting a lot of photos sent to us by people in the public with the council workers, obviously, on ride-ons, or you've got multiple people within a garden bed, which doesn't need to be, which really seriously doesn't need to be maintained, and no mask on and all sort of stuff.
No, so that was one of the questions Channel 7 asked me today was, how do you feel about people, the council workers who are out there? I said, well, why is their job any different to what I do? I'm more safe than they are because it's just me. I'm only going to, maybe a dozen houses, but not seeing anybody, and I'm coming straight home. They're going to various parks and gardens. There are people out there. It's no different to the trade. You go past a trade site now, you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 blokes on the site, none of them wearing masks. And at lunch, they all go out to different venues to go and get their lunch and then come back. So,
yeah, I've been astounded by that. I get a coffee regularly up in the corner here, and there's a bunch of plumbers ripping up the side of this house. No one's wearing masks. They're all within close facility, and it's quite. It's just quite dumbfounding to me how it can just be for one case it's completely different to us. Whereas no offense to council workers, but I think our guys would take a lot more care with the rules as opposed to the council workers as well. Absolutely.
I mean, council's council. Jim's, you've got a very big name and brand that you've got to protect.
Yeah.
And the first thing someone would do is if they see a Jim's mower out on the nature strip mowing without a mask, is take a photo and
absolutely.
I think the sole traders are easy just to push aside, in my opinion. They don't have unions. They have very little support or voice, and so it's easy just to say, well, you're not working. If you try to stop a big company, who's contracted to look after Port Phillip parks and gardens, well, all of a sudden you've got that company plus the council voicing, so we're just easy to push aside and not be listened to.
Yeah, I think that's the frustration of obviously Jim as well, was when that happened, is what you said, there's no real voice, was there? As you said, there's no real union for it. Who's going to speak out for the little guy in this sort of circumstance?
Yeah, and that's where we're lucky that, okay, Jim was frustrated, upset, and offered to pay our fines, and we get all that. And, that was never going to happen, really. You can understand his passion for looking out for the Jim's group and the Jim's people. But you think about the independent bloke or the independent family that, husband and wife team who are going around cleaning, and they have absolutely no one standing up for themselves. And they're just sitting there going, well, we have to take it, and hopefully JobKeeper will get us through for the next 6 weeks. It's just...
Yeah. And that's really important. I think people need to remember as well. I know there's a lot of, let's say, the comment sections on Facebook and stuff. They're a disaster to even go look into as well, you know. But Jim had a lot of people, independent business owners, actually emailing him direct. So these weren't the people commenting on Facebook, or these were the person emailing him direct, and he got a lot of support from sole traders who basically said what you just said in regards to, you know, we don't have a union, anyone for speaking up for us, so thanks for speaking up to us, which is definitely what happened. And you're right, what you said, it's pretty easy to push aside the sole trader, but there's thousands and thousands of businesses, as you said, who now are just going to be struggling for a long time.
It would be an interesting statistic, albeit very upsetting statistic, to see, and not within the gyms group, but sole traders. How many sole traders existed at the start of this lockdown, and how many are going to come out at the end of it?
And you know, that's going to be a fact, isn't it? And that's going to be seriously reduced. In regards to our guys, though, you know, obviously probably means more work, you know, because there won't be less businesses to do it, but it shouldn't be that case, should it?
No, and what I'm also dreading is for those that are okay to get through to the other side, how much work is waiting for them, how much physical and emotional strain they're going to put themselves under to want to get that work done before spring really kicks in.
Yes.
And to make up the money that they've lost in the 6 weeks. I mean, that's going to take a real physical toll, but geez, the emotional and mental strain it's going to put on people to try and get through that work I think is going to be just as equal.
Yeah, I think the mental health effects of this we're going to be dealing with for years, and then you have a lot of, let's say, unsafe home environments as it is in normal circumstances, and now you put, you know, a lot more pressure in terms of internal households on children and especially relationships as well. So it's going to go on for years. But I was going to say as well, so when the reaction happened, or when the announcement, the flip and comment happened, as you said, the phones went berserk and stuff like that. Was it something more from fellow franchisees you heard from, or what happened with the franchisor, or what was the next sort of step? It
was actually friends and family that had rung me to say, have you seen this? Have you read this? Have you heard this? Because they were generally concerned about my business and concerned about what that meant for me and my family. So that's where the real concern came from. And I'm close to a number of franchisees within our region. And of course, we were, you know, texting as well and in communication with each other, just that, you know, had you read this? Had you seen this? And even the night before, when there was that leaked document going around about what businesses might close, and you sort of read it and you thought, well, if this is correct, we'll be okay. And what's frustrating is that they knew which businesses they were closing down. Why wait till 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon? Why not come out on the Sunday night and give people that week's grace? Let people just go, okay, I've got a week to try and get as much work done as I can to try and keep the, you know, income coming in, or it gives me a week to plan how to get over the next 5 weeks or thereafter. You know, they talk about staggered stages. Sole traders should have been in that staggered stage. We shouldn't have been Wednesday midnight. It should have been Friday midnight for us, just to allow to get through that, because you've got two days of just absolute, being that Thursday and Friday, of just wasted time. You know, it's just dead space.
A lot of anxiousness as well. You know, people not knowing what to do and not what to do with their business and stuff like that, and just, you know, holding out some.
First thing I did was jump on what government assistance am I eligible for, only then to realise that as a sole trader with no employees, nothing other than JobKeeper. And that's obviously a federally funded package.
Yeah, which is quite astounding. Well, are you shocked about that? Would you have thought there would have been something in place for that?
I think that if at the end of the day you're going to stop 400,000 sole traders from working, there would have been something in that space to allow them to get through, and not for them just have to rely on $750 a week. $750 a week for an established gyms mowing business, or even an established gyms franchise, is probably a day's trade, you know. And you factor that in, if you're, you know, in your third year of business like me, and you're going, okay, you know, the 2 years of business, I've been able to budget this for this month and, you know, X, Y, Z. And you factor that in, and then all of a sudden that rug's been pulled out from under you, and you're just left going, where am I going to find that money that I had budgeted for to come in? And, you know, I hope people have been putting money away for whether it be, you know, for superannuations or savings, but you shouldn't have to be forced to dip into your hard-earned because you're being told you can't work.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment. There's a lot of people you know, some callous people online were saying that, oh, you know, they should have money saved up, or if you're in business, you should always have, you know, a bit, you know, stored aside. But a lot of people don't. You know, they might have just started their business or their franchise. I know we had a franchisee come to this house for the 7 News story. He was 2 weeks in the business with his franchise. You know what I mean? Like, he was 2 weeks in the business. We've had people just start up, and then, you know, I feel for them. You know, what can you do?
But even if you are lucky enough to have some money put aside, just because you can't work doesn't mean the business costs involved in running a business stop. You know, there's public liability insurance. Depending on when you were set up your business, you might very well be up for a $500 invoice this month for public liability. You might have car insurance, car rego, trailer insurance, trailer rego, equipment costs. You may have been putting in all your tools to get serviced, ready for a spring busy period, and cop a big, you know, $1,000 invoice for getting them. And then people just think, let them. I think it's a very naive attitude to have, that people should have savings put away for something like this. Nobody foresaw this coming. Up until a week ago, or a week and a half ago, we were all working. We were doing our job, and we were doing it safely. Well, where is the evidence to suggest that contact within trade is the reason for the growth of this virus? I haven't seen a stat to say, oh, yeah, it's people coming to your house, doing a plumbing job, and then going to the next house. I haven't seen that, and I don't believe that that's the case. I mean, that might be just, you know, me being naive myself, but it just goes back to the fact that what is different to, like your example earlier, of Parks and Gardens doing their job and me doing my job. We're both outdoors.
Yeah, that's quite a common frustration for the majority of our franchisees who completely do contactless. Like, even when we were back in stage 3, you know, you still have a lot of clients who didn't want any contact with the franchisees, and they were doing everything contactless, whether it be dog wash, you know, cleaning, mowing, etc. And fencing, you know, fencing handyman, for example, is a lot of it as well.
And Joel, it's not only just the service that people provide, the gyms group provide, or any individual sole trader that has a small business that goes out to homes. It's not just the actual service, the job that they're doing. It's the interaction. It's the mental health break that client, I mean, I've got a client who's 95 and knows that every Wednesday I'll be there. So, you know, she expects me to be there on that Wednesday, and then all of a sudden I'm not turning up. It can throw them out. They look for that familiar face coming around and just waving through the glass or having a chat.
Yeah, it's a great comment, because John Wiles, when he got interviewed Channel 7 as well, he said exactly the same thing as you regarding the elderly customers. A lot of people don't realise that our franchisees go in and check in on elderly customers, and you're right, they give them that interaction. That might be the only interaction they have for the week for someone. We don't know. So, you know, that was a big thing as well. And then obviously now that's all been kibosh for the next time. So are you clear on the rules right now, just to make sure? Are you clear yourself on the rules, or is there some NDIS exceptions or something like that?
Look, I don't know. I'm not clear on the rules, because there has been some suggestion that if you service perhaps a property that, you know, like an elderly person's home that needs their lawn mowed in fear of them tripping over. I mean, does that come under essential work? I don't know. I mean, I've got 2 properties that are special care facilities, and I'm it. So they're staffed with, you know, I guess, not nursing staff, but, you know, staff that help the people within those homes. And I'm the gardener. So I do, you know, the hedges, the lawns, what have you. So for the next 6 weeks, they're just going unmaintained. Now, what happens if that person in the wheelchair wants to just go out and you know, go around the garden area, but all of a sudden can't, because, you know, they can't get across an overgrown lawn, or the hedge is overgrown and they can't go past the footpath. And people might laugh and go, ha ha. I got a call the week. So I did a job on the Wednesday just before we locked down, where one of my facilities, a special care facility, needed the hedge trimmed back because the clients within that were wheelchair bound couldn't get through. They physically couldn't get past. So I did that on the Wednesday, just because I didn't know whether or not I'd be entitled to go back on the Thursday to do it. Now, does that mean I could have done that? Or it doesn't fall within that bracket? Nobody knows. The police don't know. those that are enforcing the rules don't know. There's always, grey areas. And unfortunately, I just think that had they left sole traders who can do their job without coming into the public, that's not a grey area. That for me is black and white, and it would allow a lot of us to continue to operate without any fear of being penalised.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. And what people don't realise, there was a Victorian Police Commissioner statement as well saying they were going to target gyms mowing franchisees, which I thought was quite just a silly statement they made as well, which was quite frustrating for a lot of the people. Yeah,
because
I don't know if you saw that one, because I know you're a former policeman.
No, I did see it, and it was also friends of mine who were still within the police force. Had jokingly said, "Oh well, it's quite easy to see a big green gyms mowing trailer or a dog wash, or those sort of things out in the road. They stand out, so it's an easy ticket if you like." But people just think that all we do is mow lawns and do gardens. I mean, we're a lot more than that in terms of the interaction we have with our clients.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't understand, is just the amount of interactions, the amount of elderly customers that use gyms for a variety of services, and they're probably their only weekly check-in, or let's say fortnightly check-in they might have with someone. So it's quite an important thing, and you're right, it's going to throw a lot of people out. So during this time, Matt, have you spoken to many other franchisees about how things are going, or in your regional, obviously your franchisor Des as well, maybe contacted him a bit, or what's been happening?
Yeah, look, I've been in contact with Des, I'll say at least once a week. It was the second week, but he's been really good. He's just released a little COVID newsletter just about things we can get involved in as just not only franchisees, but as friends and family. Zoom meetings are a regular occurrence now with Des. We had one yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but I know that they had 17 of the region jump on board with that and just share different ideas and tips about how to get through the next 5 weeks. He's been really proactive in sending us information about the financial assistance out there for sole traders with employees or those that might be set up as companies. So he's been really great. He's been really proactive in that space. In terms of other franchisees, I'm actually doing Certificate 3 in horticulture at the moment. So that's all online as well. So our classes are on Thursday. So we had a class just after the Wednesday lockdown. So for the first 15 minutes of the class, we were all just talking about how each other's going with their business. What does it mean? And even amongst ourselves, we weren't sure of the rules. There was one, I think, do you know John Wilds?
I know John, I speak to John a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So John had given an example of whereby he had rung the small business hotline to find out whether he was able to go out and do a job at a body corporate. He had, the information given to him was a yes. He then cleared it with the police. They said, well, it sounds like you've got the answer, from the right source. Another franchisee had rung the exact same hotline to ask the exact same question and was told no. So even the people giving out the information who were supposed to know the answer to these questions don't have the answers and are giving mixed messages.
Yeah, that's because they've got no clear directive, and that's the problem, isn't it? So, and that's the thing, right? And I feel sorry for them as well, because they're trying to. What advice can they do? They're unsure themselves, and that's half of everyone's frustration at the moment. And I remember John called me at 9 o'clock. I think the night when he told me about that story about calling people who gave him approval or some said they didn't know and all this sort of thing. And it just feels sorry for everyone, because it's very, very frustrating. But in regards to you touched on something I want to talk about, is what are you going to do in your downtime? So is there anything you're going to specifically do to work on your business, or is there some things you think some franchisees should work on or concentrate during this downtime to try and keep themselves sane, obviously, because they can't work?
Yeah, so what I did straight off the bat when I was told that we couldn't work was I have all my clients, or those with email, set up on an email. So I sent out an email to them all just saying that this was the situation, that unfortunately due to stage 4. And
hopefully not stage 6. Gee, we got stage 6 of it.
So I sent an email out just saying that as a result of the stage 4 restrictions for the next 6 weeks, I'm unable to work. So please don't think I'm just not showing up. Take the time to look after yourself, and know that when we're given the green light, I'll be straight back on the tools. And if it's lucky enough to be earlier, I'll be straight back. If not, then I'll be there. So that was the first thing I did, was just so the clients knew that I cared about them. I cared about my business enough to know that I wanted them to know that I couldn't work. And I did say to them in the email, I was perfectly honest, I said, look, I think I can work. And all my clients that responded, and out of 90, I think I got around about an 80% return email, was, yeah, we think you can do your job safely too, but we understand these are the rules.
Yeah.
So they were more concerned. They weren't so much concerned about their garden or lawn not being maintained, as opposed to how will I, as a small business owner, get through the next 5-6 weeks without any income coming in from working. So that was the first thing I did. But in that email, I also told them that I'm going to start working on getting my Jim's Mowing Hampton Bayside monthly newsletter together. So that's something that I've had on the list to do for the last 2 years, believe it or not. And I just have not had the opportunity. And that's probably a good thing, because I'm just, it's an indication of how busy I've been, which is lucky. But I am going to take this opportunity to draw up a newsletter and just use a program like MailChimp, and just every month send them out what's to do in the garden, or what I've been doing as a business, some tips and tricks about how they can improve their garden, their lawn, when's the right time to fertilise the lawn, how they, these sort of things. Now, some of them may read it, some of them may not. I hope most of them will. But I think a lot will then turn around and go, well, he's actually been proactive, and he's given us some, an indication of what we can do to get our garden better. Let's just get him to do it. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Another thing is an Instagram page. Now, I know I can't call it Jim's Mowing Hampton Bayside.
I think there's been a ruling you can at the advisory.
Really?
Yes, so you can. I'm going to make sure I do a video update on that. But we know that you can have with certain measures in place. We are making it, because we know we've run some trials with building inspections, and I know dog wash and cleaning do it. And with certain measures in place, you can do it. So I know it's going to be a new thing. People watch that might go, "Oh, cool! I can have a Facebook page." There's certain controls and stuff that have to be in place.
Yep.
The announcement soon. So please do it as Jim's Mowing, as your brand.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So I've been keeping over the last couple of years a portfolio of digital photos of before and afters.
Yeah.
Simple things like edges, like on a nature strip, how overgrown they are to what they become now, right up until returfing jobs. And so I'm going to start, that'll be during this period as well, working on that to build that up and start getting hopefully generating some business through that. I'm also on LinkedIn, so giving I've been able to do a few posts here and there, but updating that and continuing to add to that will be my on the list of things to do.
Now, with the LinkedIn thing, do you reach out and add real estates in your area, or body corp managers in your area? Do you do any searches and reach out and send them a connection request?
I don't, but I am linked in with ones that I do know. So I'm linked in with some people that I already knew were real estates and they're in my area. Yep. And I'm also linked in with, people who work within the real estate space, may not necessarily be agents, but linked in with them as well. So it's just and I'll be honest, in the 2 years I've been there, I haven't generated any work out of it. And I understand it's a slow burn, but I get a lot of positive feedback out of it. Now, that's not to say somebody hasn't mentioned my name or brand to somebody else and it's come through in that way and just not been mentioned to me. But I think it's a good tool to have. So I guess in short, this time will be taken to really build up the media side of things, if you like. I don't have a Facebook page, so that's and I don't intend to have one. I think I can get away with the Instagram, the newsletter, and the LinkedIn. I think that's enough social media for me. The other thing I'm going to do is just concentrate on my own backyard, because invariably those who are gardeners and landscapers tend to not have the worst, but don't have the time to look after their own gardens. The electrician, he's always got the light that's out in his house. The plumber's always got the leaky toilet, because we're all just so busy. We don't have the time to get it done ourselves. So I've got a couple of projects I've written down, like building a veggie patch and garden for the kids.
We should document that. That's a great one. It's a really highly used search term at the moment. Is how to grow vegetables in your garden or veggie.
Yeah,
pages.
right. Okay. Well, I will do that. I've got an area that looks pretty poor at the moment down the side, and that's just because we've had a new fence put in and whatnot. But it will be a little bit of a project that I can work on with the kids, and then coming into spring, right, ready for them to plant and grow. So, returfing my lawn, repairing all my irrigation. So these things that, whilst they will benefit me in terms of my garden and will look nice, it's also still learning. I'm still learning on the job and teaching myself. Plenty of YouTube clips out there that'll help me, build a retaining veggie patch, a retaining wall veggie garden, those sort of things. So they're the things I'm working on during the time.
Yeah, and Instagram is great for mowing, especially. Some great hashtags in mowing. There's some certain hashtags which get a lot of, I might say, there are some rude ones, but with Instagram, the main thing to use is always use your 30 hashtags. So you can use 30 hashtags, and hashtags are for discoverability.
Yep.
So you can even start your own hashtags. So you can have Jim's mowing, whatever your territory is, and always use that for every post. Yep. So that eventually people can search for your hashtag and see your online resume of work. And then just make sure you have the 131546 always on the profile and stuff like that. You can also use a tool called Linktree. So Linktree is a link shortening tool, and basically it's a mini form of a landing page. So you can have Linktree in your bio, and when someone clicks it, it goes to a page. You can put various links to various things you've done. So you can view your most recent newsletter, subscribe to my newsletter, view my most recent work. So there's various things that you can do. And mowing's got a great one for Instagram. People love that sort of stuff. So it's very underutilized. But LinkedIn's another one. As you said, it's great you're on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's still underutilized by a lot of franchisees because you can target so many people that you want. The real estate's in your body corpse, and you can, hey, I'm new in your area, or hey, if you want to change, here's my work or something like that. And it's a really easy one to do. And Instagram's fantastic. I'm looking forward to how you're doing it, and document that thing you do in the backyard with your veggie patch. That'd be great. Kids veggie patch, very popular. I think it's a really cool one. And is that a service that you've ever been asked to do from clients, is to do veggie patches or something? Or
look, I haven't. I think
it's a great one. I think it's a great one to,
When I bought the franchise, I had all these ideas about where I could take it, but being realistic, I knew that it was first to learn the business. Yeah. I think after 2 years, I've got a pretty good understanding of my clients, their needs, and how to operate the business. So it's now into this third year where I'm going to start branching out into those small things. I had originally thought, I'll get into the hard landscaping and all that sort of thing, but I actually enjoy the soft landscaping side of it more than the hard. And with that, I mean the planting, the mulching, the suggestion of which plant to put in which area. Because one thing I have learned, and this is no disrespect to landscapers at all, because I know that there are many out there that do a fantastic job, but a lot of them plant to just make the garden look good after a makeover. So they've come in, they've done the garden edging, the path, the lawn, the irrigation, and then they've just put in some plants and some mulch, and the client comes out and goes, wow, this is great. Only to find that in 12 months' time, that plant has died or hasn't grown because it's actually not the right plant for the right area. So one thing I learned when I did my Certificate 2 of Horticulture was that not all landscapers are horticulturists. Not all landscapers are horticulturalists. And of course, not all horticulturalists are landscapers. But that's where you should be getting a landscaper in to landscape your garden, but you should be getting a horticulturalist in to suggest which plants in which area and, how they'll benefit from which soil and which mulch. So that's where my focus, and I'm going to drive my business to, in perhaps teaming up with a landscaper and doing the soft side of things and speaking with clients about which plants would work well in their garden because they're a north-facing garden by the bay, or those sort of things. So that's where my focus has been. And of course, during this period, I'll be finishing off my Certificate 3 in horticulture. So I'm still keeping very busy and very much hands-on with the business, but also taking a bit of time to spend with the kids and the family.
Yeah, I think that's probably the another benefit, obviously, for people who probably work all the time. I know you're homeschooling the kids, you're with the kids a bit more, so you have that period of time where you can probably spend a bit more time at home and sort of have a bit more fun with the kids, as opposed to working all the time as well.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'd much rather be out working than having to answer algebra questions because,
You're involved in the homeschooling, obviously. You're doing it.
Working's a lot easier, Joel, I can tell you that. Knowing how to simplify an algebra fraction.
What was your best subject at school? What were you helping on?
Look, I wasn't bad at maths, but it's been a long time since I've had to remember how to, cosine and coefficient and all this sort of stuff.
I've got no idea. But so you're using a lot of this downtime to improve your business. There's some things you probably put off that you're doing now, which is a newsletter, get an Instagram page, get some more content going. You've got a lot of photos, which is great. You've kept that digital library. You can also send it to us if you want. socialmedia@gyms.net, and we can share them onto the page as well. We can do some galleries on the main page. So please, any franchisee or yourself, just send it to socialmedia@gyms.net, and then we can post your stuff. And I'd love to see the veggie patch thing. I think that's going to be really cool because it's a really highly searched term is vegetable patch or how to grow vegetables in your gardens. And I'm always thinking, I don't know if it's a service code that we have. I don't think it is. But it's something that maybe moving forward as a market, people want to sort of do a bit more things at home and grow their own, organic, fruit veggies. It's a great service that our blokes will probably offer.
Yeah, I think that's where, as a business owner, you've got to be proactive in that space. Because I don't think there's probably anybody out there ringing Gyms Mowing on, can you come and plant me a veggie garden? But I think that's something that you could easily, there would be certain clients within people's businesses that would absolutely jump at the chance. Those clients who have got the small kids, the family, those sort of people. But even the recently retired who love tending out to their garden. And some of my clients have existing patches that aren't growing really well. So I'll take this opportunity to learn more about the vegetables and the herbs and all that sort of stuff. So that come spring when I'm back working, I'll be able to say to them, well, that this is actually a good vegetable to be growing at this time of season. Do you know this is a good feed to be using? Oh, your damage to this lettuce leaf is caused by this particular bug or slug. So I think that's where, as a business operator, you've got to be more proactive in that space to not push it on the client, but a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. And, before you know it, they'll be getting you back to seasonally plant and harvest their fruit and veg.
Yeah, the only reason I say it is it's a really highly searched term online. There's a lot of articles about it. There's a lot of mum bloggers who write, doing veggie patches in the gardens with kids and stuff like that. And I think it's a no-brainer for us to do that. It's like a mini landscaping job almost in a way, but it'd be good money earner too.
Oh, absolutely, because it is. It's most herbs and veggies are annual, so you're going to change them over every 12 months or 6 months or whatever the case might be. And you're right. If you've got somebody, if there's a franchisee out there that has done that sort of work before, they'd be crazy not to be putting that up on some sort of social media platform to show people that that's a service that they offer.
Yeah, I'm sure people do it. It's just something that we haven't really, pushed at all. So maybe we might even need to create a separate service code or do some content around it. Probably maybe have to come out to you when we can in a video, maybe just do something like that to be actually able to show the process with the kids and stuff. It's a great way for parents to teach their kids about where food actually comes from. It doesn't come from the supermarket. It's not made there. It's obviously grown here. Or
look, it is it's an ongoing source of education because from the seed to the plant to the that old farm to table sort of excuse me, that farm to table theory or that term that's being used quite a lot now can start as early as the kids being just out there pulling a lettuce leaf off and knowing, like you say, where it comes from and how it's growing. And certainly with people, more and more people, unfortunately in this time being out of work or reduced incomes and not being able to go outside, outdoors for too long with the family. You're right, it's a no-brainer. You're saving money by growing your own. You're teaching your kids the way behind growing and where it comes from and the time taken. And kids love it. Kids love getting their hands dirty. And my kids are just saying, when are we starting it, Dad? I'm saying, I'm just waiting for the right weather. And we'll be knocking that up. And that'll be something that I will be definitely done before the end of this lockdown.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking for more of the inner city franchisees as well. Let's say there might not be the lawn at the front, but they might have a little bit of a back patch, to have some concrete, you can go in there and make a system for them and all that sort of stuff and create something for them in like even on an apartment. Seriously, if there was a big enough balcony, you could do some sort of system, have that system, have that product there, you can advise them on it. It's a great way of getting more clients, especially maybe in the inner city when they wouldn't need to maybe necessarily use the mowing service.
Absolutely. And I mean, even rooftop gardens, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it is. And yeah, I get it. Landscapers are sort of more in that rooftop garden space. But that's, again, where I think that the need for a horticulturalist, and that's where a lot of people probably don't understand that there are a lot of gyms franchisees out there amongst the mowing division that are more than just mowers. There are those that have gone on to do your Cert 2 and Cert 3s that can actually advise, like I was saying earlier, what plants grow best in what environment. And I think that, not to digress too much, but I think there's a franchisee out there that is looking to grow their business. I think Certificate 2 and 3 within the horticulture is a must. I really do.
It just opens up so much more of a world of possibilities, right? So much more you can go into the home and offer with all the extras and stuff like that, and probably increase your client base as well. And I remember going out to you and Des as well, just having that knowledge where, watching Des go in the backyard and just knows everything, how much that would cost, and all the plant names and yourself was quite impressive. And you just impressed the clients, wouldn't it? Give them that wow factor.
Yeah, but for someone like me, I just like learning more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to stop learning, which I think that this job allows you to do. I mean, sure, if you're happy just going out and maintaining somebody's lawn or their garden and doing that well, then that may be just enough for you to satisfy what you want to do or how your business wants to operate. Or alternatively, that's all the client may want you to do. But having that availability to be able to say to them, yeah, no, I can tell you how to plant that. Or did you know that that's what's causing damage to that citrus tree? These sort of things. And just within your own backyard, it's a great opportunity to get out in your own backyard. So people, we're locked down, but you shouldn't see this, I don't think, as a reason to stop your business growing. People can easily look at it as a negative thing and throw the toys out of the cot and just say, oh, well, I'm stuffed. But I think you should look at the glass half full scenario and say, all right, this is an opportunity for me now to work on how to grow my business when we can start getting back and operating again, building up my clientele, maybe potentially putting on another employee. Because one thing we all know is that when we are back out there and it is the second week of spring or, and hopefully not later, we're all going to be busy. So you've got to start to plan for that now, because there's nothing worse than waking up the day of, geez, I'm back at work. Oh my God, I've got 100 jobs to try and get done this week. Putting yourself under that pressure. I think now's the time to, sure, take a break, because I know for a lot of us, we don't take enough time out of the business because we're always thinking, if I'm not working, I'm not earning. But look at this glass, look at it as a glass half full. Okay, I'm not working, but I'm not earning, but I am going to take this opportunity to focus on how to build my business and how to get back on, as soon as I'm allowed to start, and how to just hit the ground running.
Yeah, some great points. And I think a lot of people, if they're unsure about some of the marketing things, it's a great opportunity to learn. Like, there's a lot of courses with Udemy on just how to do a MailChimp campaign, talk to your franchise or other franchisees. There's so much YouTube material online to do some of those functions. If you're not that confident about it, why not take the opportunity to learn a new skill? And you mentioned the horticulture stuff before. What resources, or is there any resources or online videos or websites that you recommend for people to maybe build their knowledge into that sort of space?
I think that in a lawn space, my Safari webpage is set up with bookmarks all across the top.
Yep.
And they vary from Lawn Solutions homepage to Lilydale Turf, to Anco Turf, to a website called Lawn Porn.
Yeah.
And he's got his own products out.
Yeah,
so
he
he's
does,
got
yeah.
a lot of YouTube videos out there.
Yeah.
Right through to just Yates, the Yates website, to Hortico, to various nurseries like PlantMark. If there's a franchisee out there that hasn't yet registered with PlantMark, they should. Not necessarily just to buy their plants, but once you're registered with them, you can log into their website. You can get prices from their trade prices from their website, so that and then you know how much it's going to cost you should you be going out to look at a job. But also they've got over 6,000 fact sheets and various videos that you can just download and look. I've got a folder here full of fact sheets that are some of the most common plants that my clients have, and I just take the time to read over them to learn about them. So there are some of them. So your plant, so your nurseries, your various garden sites, ABC gardening. There's thousands out there, and if you're ever not sure about a plant, and geez, I'm always not sure, I just Google it. The next thing you know, you'll find 25 YouTube clips, or you'll find 6 blogs about a certain plant that hasn't grown, and those sort of things.
I think you've got a curious mindset and a learning mindset, which I think is the key, isn't it? During this time, especially, not just sit around and do nothing. You're trying to learn new things. You're working in your business and that sort of the thing. We want to encourage every franchisee to try and do, just to try and learn something new during this time, or work on their business for things, as you said, you've been meaning to do the 2 years for the newsletter. Now you're going to have that set up and ready to go for when you're flat out again, I guess, in spring.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was saying earlier. You can look at this and you can throw the toys out of the cot and say, woe is me, and watch your business, unfortunately slip away from you. Or you can look at it as a glass half full scenario and say, what can I do in this time that's going to improve my business for when I'm able to get back and start working?
Yeah. Is there any books or anything you listen to as well? Do you audio book, or do you read much books? Or
So there was a podcast, and I think probably because of the COVID space, they've had to stop it. I'm not sure, but it was called Gardening Australia. So it was it wasn't called Gardening Australia. It was Better Home Gardening. So it was from the Better Homes and Gardens group, and it was a qualified horticulturalist. I don't remember. There were 2, a male and a female. I can't remember their names. And so it was a podcast per month, all about, what's to do in the garden. And they'd have guests on. So they had a representative from Lawn Solutions. They had a representative there who sold wicker baskets, so like wicker garden beds. So I often used to listen to that. Unfortunately, that I haven't been able to find them back as yet. Hopefully that'll be returning. So I used to do that when I was out on the road, just tune in and listen. Books. So I've got a few books. I've obviously got the Gardening Australia book, which is a real almost encyclopedia-like book of plants and diseases and weeds and pests and all that. I've also got a book called Gardening Throughout the Year, and that's Gardening Throughout the Year in Australia. So that's everything like across every month. What should you be doing in this month? What are you looking for? What's to plant? What's to pull? What's to prune? When to prune it? I mean, it's a fantastic book. So I'll be relying heavily on that for my monthly newsletter. Okay, August. Right.
Fantastic. That's a great idea. Yeah.
And I've got a book by Paul Bengay, who's he's a garden designer, but he focuses a lot on plants, not so much the as I say, he's not. I don't know that he's a landscaper, as more of a garden designer. So he focuses more on the plants as opposed to the structural elements. And it's a fantastic book because it goes through it. I think probably about 70% of what's in that book, clients have got one or more of those particular plants. And it talks about how many plants you should plant to a square metre if you're looking to create a hedge. And it's broken down in sections. So it's broken down in hedges, shrubs, textural plants, and these sort of things. So it's a fantastic book.
That's great. Some great options there for people to look at. And what I like, what you said about getting some of that information and using it for your newsletter, I'm sure there's so much you can use and for fellow franchisees to use for those newsletters and get them going as well. Now, I was going to say as well, so it's great to hear what you're going to do during this period as well. But is there any tips and advice that you have for anyone who might be struggling? So obviously you've got a pretty, focused plan on what you're going to do during this next time. But is there any advice or any tips or any mental mindsets, you could give to some maybe franchisees who might be not doing as well?
I think first, have a look around your own place. If you're lucky enough to have a backyard and you could see this opportunity is to try a few things out in your own space. And that might be, clients talked about wanting to plant a specific plant. And so you might go out there and, just buy a sample plant, like, a small one, and plant it in your own backyard and see how that looks, see how it grows over this period, although with winter, probably not much. But reach out to your franchisor. I mean, they would have ample, nobody's been through this before, granted, but I'm sure they've got tips and tricks that they've picked up from other franchisees that if they haven't shared with you yet, that they'd be willing to share. Other franchisees, see what they're doing. See how the person in your region or, that you wave to throughout the day, or, when you see them, what they're doing. Be proactive. I think it's too easy to sit back and wait for things to come to you during this period and hope that they come to you. You've got to be proactive, because if you're not proactive, you're going to get left behind. And, I hope that nobody loses their business because of what we're going through. So you've got to see this as an opportunity to be proactive. Get on different sites, garden sites, look at different books, increase your knowledge. You don't have to go out and do Cert 2 and Cert 3, but take this time just to brush up on a basic knowledge about how to re-turf a lawn, because I can guarantee you that at the end of this period, there's going to be that much work out there that whilst we won't be able to do all of it, you want to take as much of it as you can. And so getting that little bit of knowledge about how to turf a lawn or how to put in an irrigation system during this period will just get you that little bit more extra work when we're able to get back into it.
Also the body as well. Sorry, no, you go.
No, I was just going to say, and the other thing is to reach out to your clients. Ask them, look, when I get back, is there anything specific you've been putting off that you want me to do? Now, some of them might just go, no, I'm just happy for you to do the lawns. Others go, yeah, look, I've actually got this citrus tree at the back that I've been meaning to get to prune, or can you look at doing that? Yeah, fine. Okay, what is it? Oh, it's an orange tree. No worries. Go away and research how to prune an orange tree, what's the best time, how to feed it, all that, so that when you're back working, first thing you can do is go there and do that. And you've done it once, you'll be able to do it the next client, similarly. And that client goes, oh, geez, I didn't realise that Matt offered that service, or, that he took, that he really cared enough to want to know if there was anything that I wanted to do or needed to do when he got back to work. So, but yeah, I think you were going to say also take the time to look after yourself, your body.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's easy just to sit on the couch and watch Netflix or get gaming. I've just got back into running, not long distance running, but just every second day going for a sort of 3-5K run just to keep fit, because we all know, and I keep going back to this, but when we're allowed back to work, it's going to be guns blazing. And, we're 2 weeks into spring, and by all account, from the rain that we had at the start of this year, it's going to be a huge spring. So you want to be not only mentally
fit,
Yeah, you don't want to just be mentally prepared. You want to be physically prepared. So, take the opportunity to stay fit, be active, but also just rest up, and don't overdo yourself in your own backyard if that's what you're planning to get out and do.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, because I don't think a lot of people realise how physical the work is, obviously, on your body sometimes. And, it's probably a good chance to rest some of those niggles or something like that, almost like a footy player almost in a way. You get this time to sort of rest up those niggles a bit. And as you said, you got to do some maintenance. So if it's going for a walk or something, or riding a bike, or doing whatever you can do just to keep that body in shape kicking over, because you're right, it's going to be a bloody busy spring. It's going to be flat out. Yeah,
and speaking of maintenance, Joel, take the time to look at your tools. Get them prepared for a busy period, because they're not being used now, and they're unlikely to for the next few weeks. So get out there.
What are you going to do for that? Are you just going to start them up and give them a bit of a...
Yeah, look, it might be a simple thing of making sure your oil in the mower's changed and ready to go for that period. Making sure you've got new blades ready to go, the filter's right. Your tools have all been cleaned with antibacterial stuff. Just give them a spray, make sure that so you're not spreading diseases around. A lot of the franchisees out there, I can imagine, would be too busy to take that time to get it done themselves. And now's a perfect time to learn it. Learn how to change the blades on your mower. Learn how to change the oil, if that's something that you haven't done yet. But yeah, you should take this opportunity to know that, right, I'm not going to have the opportunity to book the mower in for a service in spring or just before spring. I'll do it now. I'll get it done now. I think they're still open. I'm not sure. The service, it's one of those grey areas we were talking about earlier, who can and who can't operate. I was lucky enough to get all my tools serviced just before the lockdown, just because I had a quiet, well, not a quiet week, but it was a week that I was able to balance the work with what tools I needed and get those things done. But yeah, I think people should be taking this time too to learn the hands-on part of their machinery, and so that bang, we're ready to go, and no holding back.
Yeah, and your days will just fly, I reckon. If you're taking that proactive approach rather than, let's say, sitting back and doing nothing, your days will fly. As you said, be proactive with clients, maybe learning something about marketing with your friend, with your stuff you can do, your tools and equipment, going for a walk, eating healthy. There's so much things you can do during the day to really keep you busy. Next, it's August 13 already, and I think September 13,
yeah,
we're going to review it, and there's, so it's not that really much time, hopefully it's 4 weeks and it'll go like that.
Yeah, and not every day has to be focused on your business, because as sole operators or sole traders, there are often times where we just don't slow down. You go to bed thinking about the next day, what you've got to get done. You've got the list in front of you going, I've got to get to Mrs. Smith because she needs that job done before, September or whatever the case might be. But, take the time, obviously, to grow your business during this period, but also take the time for yourself. Take the time to slow down and say, okay, what do I want to do here? Do that puzzle with my son that, we've been putting off, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, you're right in what you said. I remember talking to Shane Ferran, who's a franchisor in South Australia, and he does a lot of meditation. I think he does an hour a day. I do it myself, which is 10 minutes. I used to be one of those people going, meditation, what's that all woo-woo stuff? But, I gave it a go for 30 days via the Calm app, and that's something that's really good. But it might be that, it might be, as you said, do something with your son or your daughter, or you might even play an instrument, you might do whatever. Maybe look after yourself to do something that you didn't have the time to do otherwise.
Yeah, and take the opportunity to learn a new skill. I'm planning to do a crash course on YouTube on the piano. So
yeah, great. Yeah, good.
Just don't come back to me in 6 weeks and ask me to play on it, Joel, because I have got a lot on that I've already said I'm going to do. But there are things that I've just I love cooking. I love barbecuing. I've got 6 barbecues, of which
6.
So they include anything from a little Weber Go Anywhere right up to a massive offset smoker to a Komodo Joe. So
do you like all those big smokers and those shows, those grill master shows and stuff?
Yeah, so I've got an offset smoker, which is my wife calls it the steam train.
Yeah.
And I've got a Komodo Joe, which is a ceramic grill, and I've got a Weber kettle and a Weber smoker. So that for me is, I did a 13-hour Wagyu smoked brisket the other week, and when do you get 13 hours in a day to be able to do that? So I was up early to do that on a Friday because I didn't have to work, or not didn't have to, I couldn't work. Mm-hmm. So that for me is my sort of that, and getting out and walking and running is my sort of calm and relax. And
I think it's
nothing better, Joel, than standing around watching a piece of meat slow cook with a beer in your hand.
I can imagine it'd be great. But
I'm not suggesting we get up at 8 o'clock and crack a beer and drink for 13 hours. I'm just saying that in the afternoon when it's coming to an end, it's quite rewarding.
But the points you're making is fantastic. It's definitely what I want to reiterate to people. I'm not trying to lecture people, but it can be very easy to fall in a victim mindset sometimes when you sit back and go, "Well, it's me." You want to get angry at things, and they're just out of our control. We can't control this at the moment, unfortunately. But what we can control is what we do with ourselves. So maybe that's showing ourselves some self-care with, as you said, learning a piano, or just doing something new with the family, or whatever, or working on the business. So maybe just make it about ourselves for once during this time, and your customers will be there when you go back to work and interact if you still need to do it. But taking that time, as you said, very important to look after yourself first and foremost. And then once you get back to business, hopefully things go back to somewhat normality, and you'll be flat out before you know it, and everyone will be forgotten about this horrible time.
Yeah, and it'll be easy to see those that have done what you and I have spoken about versus those that haven't, because they're the ones, unfortunately, and I don't mean within the gyms group, I'm just meaning in general, those people who haven't taken the time to look after themselves, or maybe look at an opportunity of building up their business, because they'll be the ones left behind.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point. It's not to blame people who are like that, because it's probably a very common thing, but just as you said, you've got to be proactive in your life, in your business, in anything you do. During this time, especially. And who knows, we might have mowing franchisees who develop a taste for cooking, or they might want to have a crack at doing the slow cooking brisket or something like that. And they're like, oh, geez, I've got a new hobby, and fantastic, and away they go and do their own stuff. But it's going to be interesting, and hopefully September 13 we can, hopefully our guys can go back to work, and girls, and away we go. But next 4 weeks is going to be very, very tough, hope for people, and hopefully everyone can get through it. Matt, and thank you very much for doing this. I know you've done a bit of media, so you're getting used to it now. So for anyone who's watching this, 7 News, I think 7 News today was August 13th. So hopefully, I think I'll be in the news tonight. And then you've done a 7:30, I think it was a report with ABC.
7:30 report, on Monday night, which was the 11th.
Yeah.
No, the 10th.
Yeah. I think you got a minute's worth, which is good generally for TV. They'll film you for ages and use a little bit, only not that much.
No, look, he was really good. It was look. It's not about me. It's more about getting the message out there for sole traders and people who are really, being left behind. And that was my, as we spoke earlier at the start of this, we don't have a platform, we don't have a union, we don't have a voice. So any little bit that all of us can do to let people know that there are businesses, and I don't mean just within the gyms group. I mean sole traders all in Victoria that are hurting. We need to. We need to let government know that we are the backbone. Small business is the backbone of this state, and unfortunately, we are losing pieces out of that backbone as weeks go on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. How many, as you said before, how many of those businesses are still operating? I know when this whole thing started, the first lockdown, our assessment was basically, our business is going to go up because a lot of those independent businesses are going to disappear, which is obviously going to happen this time. So. Yeah, I presume our franchisees and hopefully everyone gets through it and away they go. But thanks for doing this, Matt. Really appreciate it. And we have our own podcast for anyone who's watching. It's the Gyms Group podcast called the Gyms Cast. So this will be on it. We'll put that on there as well for people to have a listen to. And we'll hopefully do this once a week with some other divisions as well. So Matt, you're representing for Mowing. So thanks for doing this.
No, thanks, Joel. Appreciate it.
No worries.